Hey guys, this is Brido here. I've got another NHL 13 demo video for you. It's essentially just a goals compilation of the goals I've scored over the past week or so. And while the video is playing, I want to talk about one of my favorite modes, and that's Be a GM. With NHL 13, I'm going to be doing a series on this, and I want to involve you guys with choosing the team for them. I've in the past usually done a team that's been pretty good, played on All-Star, and have never really had any trouble with not winning the Stanley Cup. Now that's been fine and all, but I've never really gotten the enjoyment of really building a team up. And I want to commit several seasons in doing this series, so I want to take on a team that's in a rebuilding state. I want to take a side that, right now no one would think will win the Stanley Cup, but maybe we build them up to a point that, in 3 or 4 seasons, it's at a point where they're actually really good, and then we can, close off this series with a Stanley Cup win, hopefully. Now, as well, I'm going to be playing on Superstar to really add a challenge for myself. Most times in the past, I've played on All-Star when I've played the Be a GM series. I think Superstar will add that little bit of realism as well. When you're playing on Superstar, it's a lot harder. And I'm hoping even maybe in my first season that I'm really challenged to win to get even to the playoffs. That would be a pretty cool thing. I'm not sure how it's really going to play out. We're going to see as the series goes ahead, but this video is mainly just to talk about some teams I think might be good choices for the mode. Now, these teams, I'm going to post a comment for each one in the comments below. Whichever one gets the most thumbs up is going to be the team I'm going to go with. If there's a team that isn't listed or a team that I don't talk about, you can list them as well in the comments, and whichever side gets the most thumbs up is the one I'm going to go with. So it's completely up to you guys, but here's some ones that I thought might be good choices to go with. Alright, so first off we have the Columbus Blue Jackets, and the reason why they're on this list is because of the fact that they're really just a bad team. They need a lot of help, and they need to rebuild at this point. With the fact that Rick Nash is gone, they have no true top offensive player. Their defense is still good, but at the same time their goaltending is not as strong as well. We look at their goaltending first, and you see Bobrovsky and Mason. You don't think either of those guys are really top goaltenders, and that could be an issue for the team. Their defense is sound in that they have good players for that, but their offensive players are not really up to pace either, and you can't really see a true 30-goal scorer out of any of those guys. Now, this is necessarily a bad thing because that means there's a lot of room to grow there. There's a lot of room to change the team around, and that's kind of a cool scenario because you can build this team from the ground up, put your own players in. It seems like it's fine. You're not changing what works already. Really, nothing's working there. You want to build them up to a point now where they're going to become better, and by doing that, you can make some trades to do that, which is kind of a cool thing to do with this team if I chose them. But at the same time, too, they don't have extreme amounts of good prospects to work with. Since they're such a bad team, you kind of want to see a little bit better prospects because then you can work them into the team. You look at Ryan Murray, he's obviously definitely a really good defenseman. He might not be ready though right away. He will be a good player though for the team. And another player that comes to mind is Ryan Johansson. These are two guys that would be solid pieces for the club. They're not, there isn't a bevy of prospects to choose from them. Still, the Columbus Blue Jackets offer a really interesting scenario because they have, some alright pieces, some good pieces to work with, but there'd be a lot of moving pieces, a lot of changing of the guard there to make this team a club that's actually pretty good. And in that way, that would be kind of a cool scenario to do during Be a GM because you'd have that 3, 4, 5 years where you're really changing this team into a contender and seeing the growth of the players that you have. Now, secondly, I have the New York Islanders here. New York Islanders are very similar in a way. They're kind of probably, to me, the worst team in the East. They've struggled since 2006, haven't made the playoffs, but they've got some good pieces on their team, and that's definitely a good thing to see. Comparatively, I like to have a little bit more to work with, and John Tavares is obviously a top center that you'd love to have on your team, and that's really a cool feature that they have. Now, their goaltending is very similar. You don't have good goaltenders on that club. You have Nabokov, who actually, yeah, he is a good goaltender, but he's 37 years old, maybe 1 season left on him in a Be a GM career. And then you have Rick DiPietro, who just isn't a guy that you want to put in the net as your #1 goaltender. Now, defensively, they have some good pieces, some good prospects coming up in Griffin Reinhart and Calvin DeHaan, but they're not there yet, and there'd be room to change that up, make them better. And along with their offense, the offense is probably the key feature of this team because you have Tavares, you have Grabner, you have Molson, and you have Okposo, along with guys like Ryan Strom and Niederreiter in the wings. There's a lot of cool talent here to work with, but at the same time, there's room to add pieces to this team. So to me, the Islanders offer a really good scenario because you have a team that needs work, a team that needs to be built better, but at the same time they have those solid pieces to work with to start with, and you can continue to add and make them better and bring them back to a point where they really did have a good historic winning streak back in the 80s. They were a dynasty, and it'd be kind of a cool narrative to bring them back to that point. Now, talking about dynasties, let's move on to number 3 here, and that's the Edmonton Oilers. They're another team that is down and out, and the only difference with them though is that they have a lot of really good prospects. The fact that they've been losing a lot has meant that they've also gotten all these picks, and that's something that is really cool to work with, but at the same time, it seems like the balance of what they are is really set already. You have Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, you have Taylor Hall, you have Nail Yakupov. Trading these guys, if I were their GM, I'd never want to do that. And it seems like that might hinder from the team getting its real own makeup. But at the same time, too, this seems like a really interesting scenario because it'd be playing out these guys' young careers and seeing, how far or how long it would take to really bring them up to the stardom that they could potentially be. So, at one point, one side of it, I think, there isn't a lot to change here. But there's, some pieces that you could build around those guys, see those young guys grow. There's so many good prospects to work with that it'd be a lot of fun, and it would be a really interesting scenario to do Edmonton in that case. Lastly, I had the Winnipeg Jets, and I don't think they're as bad as any of these other 3 teams, but the thing that made me interested in them is obviously because they're a new franchise. There's that appeal of doing that team because of that. At the same time, too, the Atlanta Thrashers previously never had real success, and Winnipeg hasn't gotten there yet either. Obviously, only one season in the league isn't enough to really say that they've failed or anything like that, but they've just started off and they've done pretty good for their first season. And it'd be really kind of cool to build on that. It's essentially just taking over a new team and working that way with them. They have some really cool pieces like Evander Kane, Dustin Byfuglien, Tobias Enstrom, and other offensive players that are pretty strong as well. So there'd be good pieces to work with there, but at the same time, there's room to grow for them as well, and it'd be kind of cool to play as the Winnipeg Jets, see them develop into a great team as well. So those are the 4 teams that stood out to me as clubs to go with, but at the same time, there's other teams that look like good choices as well. Now I'm going to post the comments here for each team. You guys can thumbs up the ones you like the most, and if I don't have a team that you're interested in, post a team that you'd like to see, and if that team gets the most thumbs up as well, we'll go with that one. Thanks guys for watching, and hopefully you check out my future videos of NHL 13 when the game comes out.